Hello. Right. Oh, I can't read with those on. Okay. Lil, that's Captain Lil. Captain Lil was at the far side of the table in the chair Echo had identified. Her face was an eerie mask, almost unrecognizable, with thick stripes of indigo clay smeared on her cheeks and her tricorn hat casting strange shadows on her features. Next to her was a man with a shock of spiky hair as yellow as his gherkin and one mechanical eye that zoomed in and out as he gazed around the room. That would be weird. And a little bit funny. On her other side was an almond-eyed woman in bright orange robes with armfuls of jangling gold bangles and red painted lips, her black hair drawn into a tight knot atop her head, a jeweled dagger skewered through it. She sounds very interesting. Although the guy with the robot eye sounds pretty interesting too. They all sound pretty. They're all interesting. Pirates are interesting. Another sky pirate stood with his fur-clad back to them, his shaggy grey hair twisted into beaded ropes beneath his tricorn. He took a seat in the shark chair, his back to the window seat where the two children were hidden. The hairs on the back of Echo's neck stood up and she shrank back further behind the drapes. So this was the terrible old Gus. "Welcome to this meeting of the Seven Skies Alliance," said the man in a voice like gravel. "And welcome to Shark's Fin's Peak. I'm sure I don't have to remind you that under the Treaty of the Seven Skies, no weapons are permitted, and every pirate may speak freely." He raised his tankard of grog. "Live by the sky, die by the sky." "And live by the sky, die by the sky," echoed the others, raising their own glasses. Echo strained to get a look at them all, but most of their faces were hidden in shadows and old Gus still had his back to them. Echo's jaw clenched in frustration. If only she could get a better view. She shifted in her hiding place and almost toppled forward, grabbing onto the edge of the window seat just in time. Horace's eyes widened in horror and Echo grimaced. It would be bad enough if her own mother found her here, let alone a whole room full of the most fearsome sky pirate leaders. She sat back down and bit her lip, promising herself that even if she didn't get to see much, she would at least remember everything that was said. "Now you might be wondering why I called this meeting." Old Gus put his tankard down for a moment. "Grub," he yelled over his shoulder, "where you got to? Do I have to come and wring your scrawny neck?" He's not a nice person. There was a crash from outside and then Grub came struggling through the doors with his arms wrapped around something heavy and large, concealed beneath a grey velvet drape. "Sorry, Captain." He put the contraption down on the table with some difficulty, then retreated backwards from the room. Old Gus cleared his throat and drew back the velvet covering. Echo squirmed and craned her neck to see what Grub had placed on the table. "What is it?" she whispered to Horace. "Looks like some kind of metal creature," murmured Horace, peeking through a gap in the curtain. Gilbert braced himself on Echo's shoulder to take a look too. Echo peered out, but old Gus's bulk concealed whatever it was that the others were all staring at. What she could see, however, was the surprise on their faces as they leaned forward. Leaning forward right now. And surprise. A gasp. Can you do a gasp? Let me see your gasp. Excellent. The man with the robotic eye was zooming in and out to study it, and although Echo could see that Lil was trying not to show it, her mother's brow was creased with worry. The septopus, said old Gus. It's been a long time since we've needed to use it. A murmur went through the room, and as the pirate shifted, Echo caught a glimpse of a metallic 7-tentacled creature with a bulbous head in the center of the table. As you all know, Saber-toothed Sisha died several months ago after falling into a pit of vipers. A pit of vipers. Vipers are snakes, and so if you fell into a pit of vipers, you would fall into a pit of... That's right, snakes. That would not be a good thing. Well, maybe they were not poisonous snakes, but those ones that she fell into, they were poisonous and she died. So don't fall into that one. If you're going to fall into a pit of snakes, fall into a pit of not venomous snakes. There were murmurs of, may she rest in peace, from the other pirate captains, and old Gus removed his tricorn hat and bowed his head. May she rest in peace, he repeated, cleared his throat. But before she died so tragically, she left a message for the remaining pirates of the Seven Skies Alliance, but on condition that all of us had to be here to receive it. So she sealed it in the septopus as a tradition. What message, said a dark-skinned pirate with her hair and long locks and a red jerkin encrusted with jewels, who was sitting with his back to Echo. In answer, old Gus leaned forward and turned a small wheel on the head of the septopus. Everyone remember what to do. State your name and your faction and give your fingerprint. In the center of the table, the septopus began to slowly turn before stopping and extending a tentacle to him. He placed his forefinger onto the sucker, which glowed red. Old Gus of the Thunder Sharks, he said. Cogs whirred, and a red-lit sucker turned pale green. The septopus's head swiveled round to the next pirate. A woman with fiery red hair and a green cloak, who stretched out one elegant green-nailed hand. Miranda Vosberg of the Scurvy Sea Snakes. The octopus turned again. Oswald the Terrible of the Pitiless Plunderers, said the man in a red gherkin with his back to Echo. Madame Maja of the Dark Hearts, said the orange-robed woman, her bangles jangling as she reached out to place her fingertip on the mechanical creature's tentacle. Another tentacle unfurled as Dill gruffly said her name. Echo's scalp prickled as Lynn extended her hand and placed her finger on the tentacle. She held her breath as the cogs whirled. Finally, the sucker lit green and Echo exhaled. So far, so good. Lil didn't seem to be any trouble yet, but Echo still needed to be on high alert. She put her hand to Stinger's hilt. The Sky Pirates continued around the table. Steel-eyed Seth of the Storm Shakers, said the man in yellow with the mechanical eye. Finally, the septopus extended its seventh tentacle to the last pirate. All Echo could see of her was her deep purple waistcoat and the shiny black plait snaking down her back. Rashmi, the ruthless of the heartless, violet pilots, she said. Echo held her breath as the septopus's head rotated slowly at first, then faster and faster, until it finally opened like a flower to reveal a small envelope sealed with a shiny blob of black wax. For a moment, the pirates sat in silence. Then Rashmi, the ruthless, lunged forward to grab it. Hey! Yelled Steel-Eye Seth, his eye whizzing in and out with fury. What do you think you're doing? Someone's got to read it, said Rashmi, with a shrug of one velvet-clad shoulder. And why should it be you? Miranda Vosberg gave Rashmi an icy glare. I should read it. Madame Maja made a grab for the envelope, but Rashmi elegantly moved out of her way. Someone just read it, Oswald the Terrible banged his fist on the table, his locks jumping in it. Enough, yelled old Gus. Remember the terms of the treaty. There's no fighting at an alliance meeting. He smiled nastily. We'll save that for later. But, started steel-eyed Seth, and anyone who forgets how to behave will be marched on to Obsidian and fed to my shark, added Gus. A hush gathered over the pirates at that, as they sat back down, still glaring at each other. Rashmi tossed her plait over her shoulder and ran one sharp, violet-lacquered fingernail under the seal, releasing it with a peppery rasp. Echo held her breath as the pilot captain pulled out a crisp piece of paper, cream-coloured, and began to read. And we shall find out what she read next time. Good night, Baba. Sleep well. Catch the kiss. And another kiss. And one for me, please. I got it. No. Sweet dreams, Baba. Good night. I love you.